Hello, everyone. I'm Vicky Vamiedaki, a tourism and a travel journalist and a communication specialist. I will be the moderator for our next session. Please do not forget to follow our hashtag FrontRunners2022 and, of course, to send your questions under the streaming of each speaker. We're really expecting questions. Let's welcome on stage Dr. Stella Leivadi, Assistant Professor and Program Coordinator, Sports Management Department of Tourism, Hospitality and Sport at the School of Business and Economics, Deree, the American College of Greece. And Dr. Eugenia Tzoumaka, Associate Lecturer Marketing at the Sports Management School of Business and Economics, Deree, the American College of Greece. They will present for the first time, the first sports tourism numbers in Greece, something that we were really expecting. Hello.
Hello.
The stage is yours, and then we have enough time to discuss details. Please.
Thank you so much for the introduction. While we're waiting for the PowerPoint presentation to upload, thank you very much for all of you being here today, especially to our students and those of us who are watching us online. Today, we're going to be presenting the first research on the sports tourism numbers in Greece. This is our first research project, and we're very thankful that we had our students helping us with this project. It was funded by the Center of Excellence in Food, Tourism and Leisure, and also funded by Active Media Group, with whom we are co-organizing this event, and we have the opportunity to discuss the findings. The agenda, what we're going to be discussing today includes the world tourism statistics, it includes the Greek tourism statistics, the sports tourism industry statistics, as well as the results of our research that include the methodology. We investigated 3 major events: Authentic Marathon Swim, Zagori Mountain Running, and Navarino Challenge. Of course, we will discuss the managerial implications as well as future research agenda. We all know that the tourism industry has been hard hit during the pandemic, and of course, the projections about decline in revenues were harsher than expected, and as you see here, we saw a decline in revenues of 62%. This was attributed, of course, to the decrease in arrivals. We see here that 71.3% decline in 2021 affected negatively the world industry. And Greece was not an exception to this fact. The crisis affected the Greek tourism industry, and what we're seeing here is that we had a steep decline of 62% and revenues declining to 14.80 billion here. And of course, this affected also the contribution of travel to the Greek GDP, which is about 25%. Those are not good news. As we see, the arrivals declined by 53%, and unfortunately, this meant that revenues and receipts declined also by approximately 71% here, 76%. Some of the countries, as you see here, almost disappeared from the Greek map. Arrivals from Russia and the United States were almost declined by 96 and 97%. And we're looking towards a solution to this problem. Sports tourism is no surprise. It's not news that affects positively the tourism economy. When we're talking about sports tourism, it's nothing different than what our ancestors did in the 10th century BC, where they were traveling from a city to another city so that they could either attend or watch ancient Greek games. Of course, this is the definition of sports tourism currently. So for leisure purposes, individuals travel from their home community to another community so that they would attend a sports event or watch an event or even venerate attractions with physical activities. We have 2 forms: the passive sports tourism, consumers, people who attend a holiday destination, who travel so that they can watch sports. And of course, the market share of those is slightly higher, it's 59%. And we have the active sports tourism, people who would travel to another destination so that they could take up on sports or be involved actively in participation. This could be going golfing or skiing. This could be participating in organized events. This could be taking adventure activities like canoeing, for example. How has this affected the economy? We know that there is a dynamic increase on behalf of sports tourism. We see that this is one of the fastest growing segments in the overall tourism industry. Cumulative annual growth rate of 16.1% from 2021 to 2030, whereas the projections for 2030 is 2,000 times more than the 800 billions of 2016. Getting dizzy with the numbers, this is my purpose, right? Why does this happen? Because, to begin with, we have more events that attendees can take part. Of course, the growth of the sports industry, the growth of the popularity of sports. We also have the growing participation, infrastructure that is getting better and better, rising disposable income, and government initiative to promote sports tourism. We heard about a couple of those in the beginning of this day. And of course, the market is not something that we can neglect when it comes to the total numbers of tourism. The sports tourism market is 12% of the overall tourism market. When it comes to developed economies, this is 20%. $1 out of $5 spent there. If we talk about Europe, then we're talking about the largest market share, 37%. And this is followed by the United States and the Asian Pacific countries that are expected to surpass the revenues from Europe. When it comes to the United States, the absolute number and the revenues that are spent is approximately 50 billion for sports tourism activity, to include lodging, food, meals, etc. In Greece, we see, and this is one of the few industries in Greece where the potential growth is so impressive, we see a 45%, this is the most optimistic scenario, for growth in the sports tourism industry. Of course, there are factors that positively affect this growth. There are favorite sports. Football, the king of sports, the favorite sport of Greeks as well, is one of the reasons why consumers travel for sports tourism activity. Of course, we see other sports like cricket and motorsport and tennis, and of course, a number of running and swimming events. In Greece, we know that there are almost 3 events, up to 5 events per weekend, with running events and swimming events being the most popular. We cannot acknowledge that this is a behavioral social trend, because running has grown in popularity like by 300% the past decade. So why do we need sports tourism? Is it only the finance? No, but it's also the finance. It's the economic impact, the positive economic impact. It's also the social impact, the sense of pride, the sociability, the celebration. It's also the urban regeneration through infrastructure. It's the sport participation and development. It's the environmental footprint that currently becomes more and more positively, sustainability initiatives. It's about education. It's also about the visibility of the destination, what we in marketing terms call destination branding, and it's also about the exposure. Of course, we also discuss about getting a place in the international map for countries and destinations like the Greek ones that we will see today, and developing skills. But for the sake of this speech today and the results that we're going to be presenting, the economic impact was what was investigated. So what we're seeing is that we have new spending through new sports event. So new visitors spend on the local economy. The event organizers and their employees spend to the local economy. The new local businesses, the pop-up stores, spend to the local economy. And of course, the new government that support the sports event. Of course, we also have internal increased spending. The locals will spend on the event, and of course the businesses will contribute. And we have inward and outward investments, we have job creation, we have tax revenues and other financial yet intangible benefits. So if we had to decide among large or smaller sport events, and of course we're talking about the Greek scale here, then what we know is that large events are very beneficial for the large countries. They can leverage them to the full, whereas smaller cities cannot support and they cannot fully benefit from what economic surplus due to the limited resources. On the other hand, smaller events can be substantially beneficial both for the smaller cities and the larger cities. Why did we do this research? You saw a couple of citations because we're scientists, and this is what we learn to do. But through those citations, what you cannot find are research on minor sports events. You can find economic impact literature on mega sports events like the Olympic Games, or for major ones like the marathons. You can find a couple of studies for Europe, while the majority of the research is orientated toward North American cases. And sometimes we see research that is focusing on destinations, cities like Miami, mainstream destinations that would benefit less, let's say, from smaller events. The Greek context is not represented sufficiently. We don't have sufficient cases that represent the financial. To be honest, this is the first research because so far, previous research has focused on activities, not events. Therefore, we conducted the specific research, including not one, but 3 destinations, fundamentally different in terms of the region, in terms of the size of the total registered athletes, in terms of the number of sports, etc., etc. We followed a quantitative methodology and we limited our sample, the participants of the survey, to active tourists. This is the most stringent way that we could follow so that we can imprint the financial, the economic impact, avoiding counter-adding the results. Therefore, the questionnaire addressed registered participants of the 3 events. It was a quantitative research with a semi-financial motive for participants to spend their time. We asked them how many days they would spend on the destination, how much money they would spend per night accommodation, average daily spending on meals, as well as other retail spending, and of course, some of their behavioral and demographic profile characteristics so that we could be able to draw some more definitive conclusions. The results of the research will be presented by my colleague, esteemed colleague, Dr. Leivadi, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Before I start with the results, let me just comment Eugenia and the students that helped her, because 2 out of the 3 events were in the summer of 2021, and that was a period where actually our students came out of the hole that the COVID-19 put them in. And we are also proud of the students and, of course, my colleague, because this was really the first attempt to engage students in research in this institution. And as Dr. Christalis mentioned earlier this morning, this is a direction that this institution wants to take by implementing the student scholars, etc. And we are proud to say that we have done it before we even knew that this is the direction that the institution wants to take. So the first event is the authentic marathon swim at PEFKI. Unfortunately, PEFKI suffered a big disaster after we were there. We don't want to attribute that to our presence. This event is a historic event because it's connected to the Battle of Artemisia. So there is some sort of cultural sport connection there that it's also something that this country needs to address through its academic institutions. We don't have a program that students study cultural and sport management. Germany has. as our esteemed colleague from Helbron University has informed us. So this event includes 10 kilometers as, like individual kind of events within the big event, 5 kilometers, 3 kilometers, 1.5 kilometers, and 800 kilometers. And it's, of course, organized by the municipality of Istiaia, Edipsos, under the Active Media Group Sport Production. OK, so, oops. How do we play this? All right. Once more. OK. Just a short video for the history of the event. OK, so now that I see it again, I'm jealous. So, however, I was in Tokyo, so I don't know who should be jealous here. So first kind of analysis we did, of course, as we always do, it's the demographic information. We had a pretty much balanced kind of sample in terms of gender. Then we have an average age of about 45 years old with a minimum of 19 and a maximum of 68. I admire this person. Okay. Then we have the kind of marital status breaking down. We have a lot of people who are married and cohabitating, but we have a good number of single people, which normally is associated with younger ages. 100% were employed. That's an interesting finding here. And we have an average household income of around 1,500 euros per month. 85% traveled with company, which could be friends, could be co-athletes, could be a significant other, and children and siblings. That's also interesting that siblings go to participate together in an event. Now, the participant profile in terms of education, we see highly educated people here for the most part. And we also ask them about their concern regarding the COVID-19 situation, of course, that we were still in it, and we are still in it. And we had, they were not quite concerned. You'll see that the next events, people were more concerned than the people here. So we have a mean of 3.9 with a maximum of 7. And 67.5% of the participants were vaccinated for COVID-19. Now, in terms of the behavioral characteristics, in a question that we are asking them, how do you see yourself as a swimmer? We see that most people are recreational swimmers, they are amateur swimmers, and there is a good percentage of 20% that they consider themselves professional. Also, under the participant profile, we ask them, for statistical purposes, of course, what kind of event of the events that we presented to you before is the most popular, and it seems that the 10 kilometers is the most popular event in that big event. Now, we are getting to the juice of it here, the destination awareness. The question was, were you aware of PEFKI as a vacation destination before participating in this event? And you see that 75% they knew PEFKI before they got to this event. Also, number of previous visits at Pevki EVIAS, it was 55% that they never been there. So therefore, the event was a good excuse to have their first visit at Pevki. And then we have how many times have you visited Pevki to participate in sport events? And we see that a big percentage, 62.5%, they never participated before. This was obviously their first time. And we have like a good group of people that will possibly, if they are swimmers, will come back to visit the place. Also, how long did you stay at Pevki? You see that most people stayed 2 nights, but we also have a good group of people that they even stayed for a week. Maybe they combined the event with a short vacation, or with the vacation that a lot of families, a lot of times they don't have more than 7 to 10 days to have a vacation during the summer. Regarding the economic impact, the spending per person, and that's an average, we looked first at the daily cost of accommodation, which was around 49 euros. The daily cost of meals was also around 40, and the overall retail spending was 27.5 euros. So the retail spending was, like buying certain things like souvenirs, etc. And that's what was, evident from the data we collected in the first event, that was the Pevki Authentic Marathon Swim.
So maybe it's the less popular, this event, from the other two that you're presenting. So maybe we need to say some things. Evia or North Evia or Pevki. You couldn't say that it is actually very famous for something. Maybe, this battle, very few people know that those fantastic swimmers were swimming there 2,500 years ago. So what's your feeling? What was the motivation of all these people that went there to participate? Was it the story that they imagined? Was it the challenge of swimming there? Was it because it's really close from Athens? I don't know how many of them were from Athens. What do you think was it? Or maybe it was a quiet area, so they could take family, maybe pets together, maybe.
I would think that all of them. However, I think that the students in Vienna who qualitatively looked at these things, because they were present, can answer this question. But my instinct says it was one of the first events, and people wanted to get out, do something. Of course, not an ordinary person went there. We looked at their profile. They had some sort of connection with swimming, but it was really one of the first events, and therefore, people just wanted to do it. And they would go even if it was, I don't know where, that nobody knew. That's the feeling I have, but...
In fact, it was one of the opportunities for athletes to go out and celebrate their sport and participate in a very nicely organized event. But there were the ones who were coming from abroad, they were really interested in the story. They were fascinated by the ancient Greek story behind the event. Because this is a relatively new event, the reason why athletes were there was the sport event. They did not come for Pevki. To be honest, they knew Pevki, 75% knew Pevki. There was a high number that did not actually know the destination at all, right, Northern Avia, but they didn't know about it. But the 75% who knew this as a vacation, they have never come to Pevki, but they came for the event. And when they came, they said, oh, we didn't know that it was so nice.
And so close, maybe.
And so close.
Even if you come by,
by car.
By car or the airport. I mean, from Athens airport, it's like, what, 2 hours?
Yes.
2 hours and a half?
It was with boat trip, it was 2 hours and a half. If you go inside driving, it was 3 hours or so. But it was so close, and they liked the destination, and they liked the destination more than other destinations closer to the area that are more popular. So the single reason why they had visited the area was the event, which is the contribution of a smaller event which is growing. And they said, I will come next year and bring an athlete, now that I know that's so close. And the president of the World Open Swimming Association even considered including the authentic marathon in, the number of events that they would support because of the history and the positive surprise, because it was the race, the well-organized race, but also the environment and the destination.
We aspire in doing this research, continue doing it, as long as, of course, the event is happening. But I think this year is a good opportunity to connect this event with the regeneration of the area, since they were devastated by those fires. And it will, it's a great opportunity to show how sport can also contribute to things like that.
Yes, and I think that it's a swimming race. It's a swimming, let's say, party. So you're not that sad because you don't see the forest that it is destroyed, or if you cross, if you run and you see maybe more things about sports that have to do with the sea have to be developed in every area now that it has so much problem. But do you think that a historical fact like this battle is very important for an area to find something and to develop an event? Do you think that it's really important to have a story behind?
This cultural connection, you
Yes.
mean? As Greeks, we would like to believe so. That's,
Is it important
that's also the Olympic Games,
for the visitors? Is one more thing that they will count down to say, yes, I will go there because there is also a story?
Well, in my early years as a graduate student with my mentor, Dr. Andrew Yanakis, we have done research on tourist roles. And actually, this is his area of expertise. And what this research showed is that there are different kinds of tourists, like one who is the must tourist, the one that wants to go to a resort, stay in there, don't go out, do whatever is offered to them. They don't even want to taste the local food or anything like that. There is the anthropologist that wants to go around and talk to people and maybe learn a little bit of the language. There is, the sunbather, they just go somewhere and they stay at the beach and they never go anywhere else.
It's not us, yes.
Or the party animal, that we remember with Corfu and Zante and all these islands that the British...
it's still happening.
Yes, it's still happening, but it was, an era in the 80s, very few people maybe remember the 80s here, that, different approach to tourism, So yes, if you approach the right people, yes, of course, they would maybe, if they come with a family and they find this as an opportunity to teach their children, or maybe even schools, although it's not a school period, could come and, associate culture with sport that way.
It's a kind of educational tourism.
Yeah.
The sports tourism also, you can learn things.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we should move and then we come back to Befki.
Okay, from the sea then to the mountain.
To the mountain.
Okay. Still, I was in Tokyo, okay, and this is a different kind of event. Of course, one is swimming, the other is running. As it was mentioned before, those are the two most popular activities in terms of sports tourism, and especially the running movement the last few years was developed a lot in Greece. There were people who were called, that they were lunatics when they started thinking about developing the running movement in Greece. When, for example, the marathon, the authentic marathon had like a few hundred people, and everybody was complaining why the whole, Attica state was installed because these 100 people, 200 people, 300 people wanted to run from Marathon to the Kalimarmaro. So anyway, this is a large-scale mountain running event organized the past 10 years at Zagori, taking place in July, off-season. People who want to go to that event. Greeks don't go to the mountains, not normally, in the summer. And is around in the for anybody who doesn't know, the area of Ioannina. Now, the event last year noted participation of approximately 2,500 athletes, resulting in over 90% hotel occupancy at the broader area of Zagori, as well as economic and social benefits throughout the local community and returning visitors. I remember that they were telling me that they couldn't find a place to stay. So it was a very high occupancy rate at this point. So let us see the video, the relevant video. I really admire these people. I'm a water person. Seeing them doing this, it's amazing. And of course, the landscape is amazing. Hopefully, I might be able to go, not to run, of course. Okay, so again, demographics here, mostly males, around 40 years old, about 42, still with a minimum of 19 and a maximum of 67. Do I admire that 67 person running this kind of event? 96% employed, and the household income is about the same, around 1,500 euros or 1,600 euros, and 85% have traveled with companies. So they see this as an opportunity to take people together. Now, in terms of area of residence, we see that we have a good percentage of people that are locals, okay, all the region of Epirus. Then we have a big percentage of people who were coming from Attica and Thessaloniki, and then there were other kind of areas of destination. Now, the profile, we all again asked them, if they were COVID vaccinated. Most people were. And also their education, we see still highly educated people here. In terms of their marital status, we have mostly married, but a good percentage, of course, they are single. And the average number of children was 1.07. And the concern was a little bit higher than in the previous event. Now, in terms of how long have they been running, we see a big percentage, of people who were running for many years, and actually the average was about 8 years. Okay, so it seems that this event is attracting people who, they do this, and this is one of the areas where they do it. However, we have a few people who are all, like beginners, let's say, because about 3 years, it's a period that is like you get to know how you run and what is your potential, etc. Now, the sport profile, still we have amateurs and recreational kind of participants with very few professionals. And the race participation, look at these numbers. That's why I said, no way I understand these people. The least distance they ran was 10 kilometers, but then look at that tera, which is teras, of course, 80 kilometers. I don't know how these people are doing. These are special people, at least to my understanding. Now, again, we asked them how many times they visited Zagori for vacation. A good percentage, 36% approximately, they never been there. And then we have a good percentage of about 65 that, they have been there at least once, okay, for vacation. Now, how many times they have visited Zagori to participate in the event? Okay, there were some newcomers, about 45%, and then we had the rest of the people that they have been there at least once. With a lot of people, 61.8, having this is being their second time. Now, the Zagori mountain running impact, we looked at the nights again that these people stayed there to participate in the event and maybe vacation, if they have stayed there for a week, it's possible that they combined this. We have a good percentage, about 60%, that they stayed at least 2 nights. Okay, we have like one night that is about 15%, and then we have 42% that is 2 nights. Okay, and the economic impact now, daily cost of accommodation about 60 euros. You see it's a little bit more expensive. Daily cost of meals, approximately the same with the previous event, 36, and the overall retail spending was 38 euros. And that's Zagori Mountain Run.
We will continue, and then we'll take questions.
Okay. So the third event, in this one, I was happy to be here since it was in October, and actually we got a good group of volunteers to help the organization. We experienced the facilities that are amazing, and of course this is a different type of event because it's a large-scale, multiple award-winning sport tourism event at Pylos. Totally different region. We went from Evia to Epirus and then down to, the Peloponnese. The sport event has now become a 3-day sport wellness festival where friends and families come together and celebrate sports literally and metaphorically. So this one, definitely people come with their families and they participate in activities besides, the running events that it's the main attraction, somebody would say. So all attendees, regardless of their participation in the Navarino Challenge runs had the opportunity to take up more than 30 sport activities designed for amateur athletes, of course, of all ages and abilities, and are as diverse as beach volleyball, basketball, boxing, tennis, biking, Pilates, etc. You name it. Let's watch the video again. Okay, so students, we are waiting for you, to volunteer again for this event in October. More or less the same kind of demographic profile. We see, though, that the maximum now is a little bit lower, so we don't have a lot of older people, 100% employed, and of course a higher income kind of participants. From around 1,600, we are here at 2,200 per month. And a bit balanced gender profile, 58%, about 58% males and 42% females. The profile of the people who traveled with the main participant is that they had a spouse, they had children, they have friends, or they were going to the event with other participating athletes. Also, an average number of children, similar to the previous one, with a mean of 1.13. Concern about COVID-19 was also a bit high. And then we have the education makeup, which is still, highly educated people for the most part. How you see yourself as a runner? Again, people, they were seeing themselves as mostly recreational and amateur runners, not that much as professionals, although there was a good percentage there. And have you participated in other activities than running while at the Navarino Challenge? You see that a lot of people said yes. So they took the opportunity of experiencing the variety of activities that the whole program was offering them. Were you aware of Pylos as vacation destination before participating in Navarino Challenge? We see that people know Pylos, of course. And how many times have you visited Pylos for vacation? We had a good percentage that they have, and we have, we have a percentage of around 36 that it was their first time doing that. And then how many times have you visited Pylos to participate at the Navarino Challenge specifically? We see that we have of about 42% that it was their first time, and then the rest, they came at least once to take part at the Navarino Challenge. So a lot of happy returning people. And how long did you stay at the area of Navarino? We see that there is a big percentage of people that they stayed at least 2 nights, 1 or 2 nights, and then we have again some people, small percentages that they may have done this as also as a vacation in early fall. And the economic impact, daily cost accommodation 355 euros, upscale, as you probably see. Daily cost of meals about 70 euros, overall retail spending 120, transportation costs 150, and then we have the participation fee, which is about 30 euros. So that's the third event, and as you go up, I can, we can answer any questions you might have.
Summarizing, and we would like to place the attention here at the, let's say, modest event. Navarino Challenge is a premium event. Pevki would be unfair to be compared since it's a relatively new event, so we took Zagori Mountain Running as the departure point. And what we see is that the economic impact is accumulated to over 150,000 euro only from active sports tourists. So what we see is the excluding the transportation costs, excluding the participation fees, which of course contribute to the local economy. This is an agency from Ioannina that manages. We have a total of 154,290 euros spent on accommodation, meals, and retail spending directly to the local community. I think that it's time to open.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stella Leivadi and Dr. Eugenia Tzoumaka, for your presentation. It was really great having you. Thank you all.